Welcome, it's Jeremy Allen Gould. I'm coming to you today to confirm between God and of man that in fact the rumors that you have all heard are true. I started this podcast because I freaking love music. I was privileged enough to book amazing artists and bands in the past, and I was lucky enough to stay in touch with many of them to this day. This is a place to hear their stories. Thank you so much for riding along on this journey, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. With that said, the rumors are definitely true.
Hey, and welcome back to this latest episode. My name is Jeremy, and today I welcome Jake Ithurburn, also known as Brolly. Brolly is a band I got into a couple years ago. I was obsessed with incredible indie rock, indie pop, whatever you want to call it. Incredible songwriting. Got to meet Jake over the years, kind of went out on a search for him and found him somehow, and we connected. And so this is an awesome conversation, I say, for an upcoming artist, even though he's been around for a while, but his new record's phenomenal. And yeah, man, really looking forward to you guys hearing it and the record that's coming out as well. So hope you enjoy this latest episode with Jake Ithurburn from Brolly. What's up, Jake? Thank you so much for coming on my podcast, man. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just I'm in Sacramento right now in my apartment, just hanging. Got the day off work, so yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for hanging with me.
Yeah, man. What are you doing for work right now?
So I do music part-time and I work in coffee part-time. So I'm doing with music, I'm writing, songwriting, and doing my own thing with that as an artist, and then doing a bit of producing for other clients and mixing songs. And so, yeah, just kind of different things in the music world. And then coffee, just working at part-time.
Nice.
At a job here in Sac, yeah.
Do you do your recording at home or is it in the studio?
Yeah, most of it I do from my place. I normally will send stuff off if I need like real drums for a song. I'll send it off to a buddy. And then there is a studio here in Sacramento called the Track Shack that one of my good friends, he actually plays keys in the band with me. He has access to that studio, so sometimes we'll go there to track like vocals or piano or things like that. So, but yeah, most of it I just do for my place.
That's awesome. And I know you got the upcoming release. How's that going? How's that kind of the process going for that?
Yeah, it's going good. I've had the record done for quite a while now. I think I finished it like a year and a half ago. And I was like, since then was just kind of shopping it around to some labels and just anyone that I kind of knew in the music industry that I've met over the years, to just try to get some help with the release and that sort of thing. But I'm releasing it independently. So yeah, the songs have been done for a while. And I've, obviously heard them a million times, but I'm excited to put it out there. It's my first like full record. I've done EPs in the past, so this will be the first like full length.
Yeah.
And I think, the last thing that I released as far as like a collection of songs EP was probably written like 8 years ago. So I feel like the songs that are on this record are a bit different than some of the stuff that I was writing in the past, just because, started listening to more stuff and got inspired by different things. And so I feel like what I'm releasing next week is probably more on, it's like going to be more like the stuff I put out in the future. I think it's going to sound, this is kind of the sound I'm going for. So
that's so cool. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that record here in a little bit. Yeah, so I just you and I were talking earlier, and it's just random happenstance how we met. I really got obsessed with your Hollow Home and Wolfe EPs probably, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that. A friend of mine texted to me, was like, you should check this out, you would really like it. And I was going through like a, kind of a time in my life, and it just kind of, I connected to those EPs.
Yeah.
And so a mutual friend of ours, Phil Yancey, I don't even know how I got on the topic. I think that's what it was. I sent it to him because I was like, this is so good. And he's like, oh, I know him. And I was like, bro, give me his number or whatever. And so so I cold texted you just out of the blue. And I'm sure you were like, this guy's weird. But I literally was just like on a mission to find you at some point.
I love that. And I love Phil. I haven't seen him in a while, but
dude, his new stuff, have you heard it?
I haven't actually, no.
Oh my God, dude. He's working with Kimbra.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he's recording songs with her.
Wow, that's so funny that you say that. The girl from New Zealand?
Yeah, and he's like been obsessed with her.
I know. I remember.
I don't mean that wrong.
You say that because I remember like 8 years ago talking to him about how he was just like, man, I love Kimbra so much.
Bro, he sent me a picture of them hanging out, and I was like, what?
Is he in New York? Is that where
Yeah, he's in New York, and he's got his Coyote mustache stuff going, which is great. And then he's got a new band called Brodeo that freaking rules. He sent me a song, and it's so good. Just,
nice.
Great stuff.
Is he singing in the band?
Yeah. Actually, no, the Brodeo, I think it's a girl singing, but his Coyote mustache is him. But yeah. Man. Nice. He's an awesome dude. Amazing guy. So anyway, all right, well, let's talk about you. Tell me, Jake, just growing up for you, tell me kind of what that was like. I want to know some records, some music, some influences that kind of shaped your musical journey.
Yeah. So growing up, I mean, my parents weren't like, super into music. Most of my family's not very musical in the sense of like, playing or writing songs or playing instruments. So me and my older brother kind of just started jamming. I got a drum set, I think, for one of my birthdays when I was a kid, and my older brother played bass. So we just started, playing music together, and we were influenced by, I don't know, this is in the late 90s, early 2000s. So some punk music, pop punk, just all that kind of stuff, So that's kind of the stuff I learned how to play first. I started on drums. And influences growing up, I kind of just listened to whatever my older brother listened to. So my first memories of like actually listening to a record and being like, man, this is really awesome, and kind of being inspired to like want to start making music of my own was just like early, like I think Parachutes, early Coldplay and Radiohead stuff was inspiring to me. And just a lot of like music that was kind of like melodic rock, I think, like any sort of soft rock. Where I grew up, like kind of the screamo scene was like pretty popular when I was in high school and in like earlier than high school. But I kind of gravitated towards some of the more like soft rock, like, I don't know, Jimmy Eat World, some of the
Totally.
So that was like what I listened to back in the day. And then I, got into like indie rock when that started popping up, like Death Cab for Cutie, bands like that. And then Bon Iver was a kind of a game changer for me as far as like developing sound and like what I wanted to do as an artist. It was just very creative, and I loved it. And that's kind of, I feel like his music has shaped what I'm doing now for sure.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah, that was the stuff growing up. And then since then, like I said, because my parents weren't, my dad wasn't blasting like, 70s music and old records and stuff like that during my childhood. That's kind of stuff that I had to go back and, listen to and find on my own, kind of just like stuff that has shaped a lot of modern music, whether it's like, Beatles stuff or Bob Dylan. Yeah, I've had to kind of go back and do my homework in the sense of like finding these records that are pretty iconic and have shaped a lot of modern music, and like appreciate them. And but yeah, that's kind of where it was for me growing up.
That's awesome. What's I know you mentioned Radiohead and Jimmy Eat World. What's some of the records that are probably your favorite overall?
I mean, my favorite Radiohead record is probably In Rainbows.
Record.
Yeah, that one is amazing to me. It's one of my favorite records. And Jimmy Eat World, probably, I think their first, I don't know if it's their first record, but Clarity was
Clarity. Like, yeah, it's perfect.
It's like a pretty soft one. That was one of their first ones. I really liked that when it came out.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, sure.
That's awesome, man. I could totally see all those influences in your music, by the way. Bon Iver and Coldplay, that whole thing, which is cool because it's not, when you write stuff, it's not a carbon copy. It's you, but it's, the textures of those bands you described. Totally can see it. It's awesome. It's really cool that it's complimentary, So
yeah.
Sweet, man. Well, talk to me about, so you're growing up, experiencing music. Kind of, when did you start to maybe think, hey, I want to be a musician? Or Brolly, how did this come? How did the name come around? You're like, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like kind of figuring out, I really love making music. That was probably early high school. So I was probably like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. Like I said, I'd been playing drums with my brother. Like we kind of, that's when I first started playing, it was just us jamming. And then I think my parents bought me for Christmas one year, like a little, I don't even remember what they were called now, but it was a little Apple computer, and it had GarageBand on it. And so that's when I started recording music. I started just making tracks. And back then it was just like, I wasn't really writing songs. I was just kind of like learning the fact that I could like record drums and have that be playing back and then put a guitar part on top of it and then add more things was like really amazing. Just that simple thing. So I started just making like instrumental tracks, and then I think some of those early, like I said, Radiohead stuff and like, Parachutes by Coldplay, artists like that, it just really inspired me to start actually writing songs. So then I started just like kind of experimenting with, my voice and sitting down with a guitar on a piano and just, writing a bunch of bad songs, and then finally getting something that was like pretty cool, and then trying to record it. And then, from there, it's just like getting together with some of my high school friends who are also musicians and being like, hey, we should start a band and start playing shows. And, I've been writing these songs, and I think a couple of them were good. So, we just started the band like probably a year after I graduated high school. Me and a few friends, started kind of rehearsing some of these songs, and The name, I think man, it's just so long ago now, but I think for the name, it was one of those situations where we had booked our first show, and the promoter was reaching out to us being like, hey, we're making a poster. We need an artist name. And we were like, crap, we got to figure this out. So we had like a couple days to figure out a name, and I don't even remember. I think I found the word Brolly online, and it's like, oh, that's a cool word. We needed we wanted something like short and simple,
Yeah, sure,
and something different, just kind of memorable, that kind of, I don't know. So I saw that word and I looked it up, and it was just like, it's a name for like an umbrella.
Nice.
Like the UK, it's like Old English kind of word.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, no meaning really, other than the fact that we needed a band name. So we'd use that, and honestly, it was just kind of like just something to use in the moment. We were probably still going to go back and figure something out, but we started playing shows under that name, and people started calling us Brolly, and that it kind of just stuck. So yeah. And then I ended up did the band thing for a while, and then we went our separate ways as a band, not as friends, and just kind of decided to make it my solo thing. And keep pursuing it. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to touch briefly on the two EPs, the Hollow Home EP and the Wolfe EP. Can you tell me kind of, I know they're probably a couple years apart, maybe just kind of go over how those kind of came together, maybe some thoughts on those EPs. Like I said, I gravitated to them, so to me, I absolutely adore those EPs. I think start to finish, they're incredible. And yeah, just kind of maybe touch on those EPs and maybe the Sun a single as well, a phenomenal song as well.
Mm-hmm. The first EP that we put out, Hollow Home Road, that was, essentially just the best 5 songs that we had as a band when we first started playing shows. And that song, Hollow Home Road, that one's still special to me. I feel like that's kind of one that has, connected with people. That's one that people will, write to me and be like, man, I really love this song, and it's meant a lot to me. And so I think just seeing how it's connected with certain people, that's made it feel more special to me as well since writing it. But yeah, first EP, just the best 5 songs that we had at the time. The second EP, Wolfe, felt a little more collaborative as far as the writing process went. That was probably like 2 or 3 years into like our band, and so we had gotten more used to playing songs in a room together live. We were actually living together in a house for a period of time, and I think when that EP came out and when we were kind of producing it and writing it, a lot of those songs were kind of written more collaboratively, like in a room together.
Sure.
And both of those EPs we were just recorded at a friend of mine. He had like a little home studio, and none of us really knew what we were doing. He would just kind of let us use it, and he's like, all right, this is what a microphone is, and this is how it works. Here is this recording software. This is the basics of how it works. And so we just kind of, when it would go in there and, just do our best to like make what we were doing sound like the stuff that, that our idols were making, but it wasn't really coming out anything close to that, but we were doing our best to get it, get it somewhere around there.
Did you produce them yourself, or was?
Yeah, so we produced all that stuff ourselves, mixed and produced it. And like, honestly, in hindsight, it was, if I could go back, I would probably have done it, like sent it off to get mixed and probably worked, but it was a good learning process for us, especially for me. Like, that's kind of my start, and like, I'd record music and produce and piece things together. And so definitely don't regret any of that, because it's helped to kind of shape my ability, and helped my creative process and me kind of dial that in.
Yeah.
So.
Let me ask you, when you finished the first EP, I know you said they were the best 5 songs you had. What was that like hearing it for the first time? What was your reaction? Were you like,
yeah,
this is amazing, or were you disappointed? Like,
I think we were pretty stoked on it just because it was like the first thing that we had, done, and we're releasing it to people. And, yeah, I think we're, very proud of it. And, it was just a lot of, work that we put into it, just doing it ourselves, so I think regardless of how it ended up, we were pretty happy with it. Obviously there's things like now when I listen back, I'm like, it's a little cringe, but me personally, but I don't know. I feel like that's every artist.
That's a common theme on this podcast.
Yeah, you write songs, you put it out, you grow, your musical changes, or your musical inspiration changes, and you write more songs, and then so it's not always a thing where you look back and it's all, oh man, this is still hitting the same way it did.
That's awesome. Yeah, touch on the Sun single. I think that song is phenomenal. And I could see, is that kind of like the change between the band and yourself?
Yeah.
Kind of, and I could kind of tell that's kind of why I asked. Yeah. Maybe talk about that and some of the singles you had put out in that the time between, I guess.
Yeah, I think Sun was the first song that I put out since the band kind of split up, and I had made it my solo thing. The band split up. I went on like a tour with a buddy of mine from the UK and supported him.
Who was that?
Who was that?
Yeah.
His name is Benjamin Francis Leftwich.
Okay, yeah.
So he's a singer-songwriter he's living in London now, but he's from the UK. And he had a record that came out, I think I want to say 2009, 2010, that I really fell in love with. And some of his early music actually really inspired some of the early Brolly stuff as well that we were doing. So we randomly became friends through just meeting at one of his shows in San Francisco, and became friends, and would send each other music and demos and just different ideas. And one of the tours that he had booked for the US, I got to go on.
That's so cool.
Support him. So that was really cool. It was like a special time. But yeah, so Sun was one that I had kind of wrote when I was on that tour. And then when I got back, started working on some new music, and Sun was like the first one that I put out. So yeah, that was the first song that I it was a different process, instead of being in a room with a bunch of guys hashing out parts, being like, oh, we need a bass line for this song because this is, it was just more like, all right, what does this song need? It doesn't need to be any specific thing. I'm just kind of experimenting and,
Did you like that, or was that cool, or did you feel pressure?
Yeah, I liked it. I think there's some songs, I think having a band being in a room together is really nice.
Yeah.
Having the ability to kind of work on a song that way. But I think it just depends. I think for something like Sun, it was nice just kind of doing it in my bedroom,
Yeah. So that happens. And then what's the timeline? When do you start working on Things That Keep Me Up at Night? I kind of want to delve into that record a little bit. I know I've heard it. You've sent it to me. It's incredible. I absolutely love it.
Thanks.
I'm really stoked for you to release it because I've sent it. I've sent to my wife, and she's like, we're floored by it. So, but yeah, let's talk about kind of after the Sun single, kind of what you were up to, and then what led to you writing the new record.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for saying that. I'm really glad that you guys are liking the songs. Yeah. So after the Sun single, I put out a couple EPs with a handful of songs that I'd written around that time, just probably 2017, kind of in there. And then kind of took a little bit of a break. Wasn't really writing a whole lot. Kind of started producing a bit more, and exploring with that world. You know, having done some producing for my stuff, I wanted to start doing it for other people, and so started kind of focusing a little more on that and a little bit less on my project. So the songs for the record that's coming out next week are kind of a collection of stuff that, you know, one of them was, you know, written probably 8 years ago. And then the most recent one was written right before I finished the record, so which was probably 2 years ago. So kind of all over the place, but I would say most of the songs were written at the start of 2020, like kind of during the whole COVID season.
Yeah.
Had a, you know, bit more spare time like everyone else, and that's kind of when I started recording that record. So yeah, I would say started 2020. I had like maybe 5 songs that I was like, I think these are feeling good, you know, good enough to like to put on a record. And so I kind of finished up those 5 songs, and then during 2020, during that year, I kind of, you know, wrote some more stuff and recorded those and started producing those songs out as well. And kind of just, I think over the course of 2020, 2021, just kind of took my favorite, you know, 10, 11 songs that I was writing and recording, and, you know, had them mixed and mastered. And so that was that process.
Who mixed and mastered?
It's kind of a collection of, you know, people. I mixed. I'm okay at mixing, but I'm still learning the ropes, you know. And so usually what I'll do is when I'm working on a song, I'll kind of mix it as I go. I'll mix it as I'm producing it out. And if I really like the mix and it's working for me, then I'll use it. And if I'm just still kind of like, oh, it's not quite there, it's not what I want, I'll send it off to someone. So I would say about half the songs I mixed, maybe about 4 of them. And then the other half, a buddy of mine that he's now living down in LA. I sent it to him and he mixed them. Yeah.
What I know you said these songs were written over a period of time, but what's kind of the subject matter of the record? Like kind of maybe delve into some of the songs and kind of your thoughts on the record as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. So the record's called Things That Keep Me Up at Night. And I think, you know, that kind of sums up what a lot of the songs are about. But for me, there's a few songs that I kind of wrote around the same time that touch on like subjects of loss. A couple of my friends lost family members that were really dear to them. So I was kind of just within conversation with them around that season. A few of the songs that popped out around that time were kind of like touching on, you know, losing a loved one and like grieving and working through that sort of thing. A couple of the songs are kind of like my own personal experience dealing with like depression type stuff. So some of the songs, yeah, there's kind of just different genres and themes like I feel like pop up depending on where I was at in that 2-year period. And yeah, I think even like genre wise, you know, within production, I tried to keep kind of a cohesive sound going.
Absolutely.
From song to song, but I do think like even genre-wise, there's some different stuff that kind of pops up in the record. There's some stuff that sounds a little bit more like maybe R&B, and then there's stuff that sounds more like nostalgic, kind of like 2000s rock, alternative music, and then there's singer-songwriter type stuff. And so, yeah, it's honestly kind of just feels like it was not so much like I sat down and made a record in a few weeks and kind of like really honed in a specific sound. It's kind of a collection of stuff from, you know, for 4 years. So
yeah, that's awesome. What's I know you mentioned in the past, obviously, the Radiohead and Jimmy. Well, what were there any particular records or bands that were influencing you at this time? Because I know that there's such a departure from the EPs and this, and again, it's the same thing. It sounds like you, but I can tell there's a shift.
Yeah, I mean, some of my early music was it was probably more in the genre of like singer-songwriter, alternative, kind of that style. You know, in this record that I'm putting out next week, I think a lot of the songs were like sonically inspired by, man, it's just kind of like whatever bands I'm listening to at the time, you know, will come in my head, and then I'll start writing stuff. But I don't know. I think songs like Hummingbird, one of the singles I put out recently, I was probably listening to The Cure a lot.
Hey, that's not a bad thing, my friend.
Yeah. Some 80s alternative stuff. And still love bands like Bon Iver is a big influence. The War on Drugs, I've really loved some of their last couple records. I'm trying to think what else.
Have you seen them live, by the way?
I haven't, no.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen thousands of bands, and that was in my top 10.
Yeah, I bet.
Unbelievable. My wife was sitting next to me just laughing. Like, this is insane. Like,
they're incredible. So, his music's been a big influence on some of these songs. Kind of all over the place. James Blake, love James Blake and some of his like experimental stuff. That's where I think some of the stuff on the record that has a little more of like a R&B flair to it, I feel like is kind of more inspired by his stuff. And I kind of was like listening to a lot of stuff that I in 2020 was listening to a lot of stuff that I listened to in high school, and just kind of wanting to write some stuff that felt nostalgic to kind of the stuff that I listened to growing up. So
yeah. Awesome. I know you mentioned you kind of were shopping this record a little. Any label interest, or was there any sort of talks or anything like that?
No, not really. It's hard. Even just finding people's like emails is hard sometimes for me. But I shopped it around. I mean, I essentially just kind of reached out to different artists and management companies and anyone that I had met in the music industry over there, the last 8 years. And some people hit you back and are just busy with life and what they're doing, and people don't respond. So I have, I'm lucky to have a lot of like talented friends around me, people that have helped me with like video and art work, and even just my band has been super helpful with a lot of that stuff. But no, so I didn't have anyone. I feel like with music, it's a lot of it's just like you got to release stuff until something hits, and some interest can be way. But so for right now, it's just like it feels like the best option, and kind of for me the only option to do it independently and kind of just build that up, build my music up, just through word of mouth and through friends sharing it, and constantly releasing stuff. It's been a while since I've put out music, and I think I kind of got into this mindset of like, man, I have to get everything perfect and packaged up. And need to get on a label so that I can promote this as, effectively as possible. But I think I kind of got to a point with it where I was just like, man, the longer I wait, it's just hard releasing music. I need to like be putting stuff out. So after this record, I have a handful of songs that I'm finishing up, and I just want to start putting stuff out more like regularly. I think that'll be good for me. So that's kind of my plan. Just do it until, hope things pick up with it and see what happens.
Yeah. I got you. I know you kind of talked about putting the record off a little and whatnot. Any maybe possible vinyl release? Any I know hate saying this, CD release? Anything not digital? Is there any plan for that?
For the time being, probably not. I probably won't print CDs. I don't have any tour plans at the moment, so
yeah, I was gonna ask you that too as well.
I do have, if I do get on a tour, book a tour, I'll probably, it would be sweet to print vinyl. I feel like vinyl is a little bit more novelty than CDs are, so
absolutely,
and it's awesome. So
absolutely.
And all that stuff. So I'll probably do like a vinyl release at some point of the record. If nothing else, just for me personally, as like a landmark to be like, this is my first record. I've been playing music for a while. These are some songs I'm proud of. So it'd be cool to have, like, even just for me personally, have like a physical copy of it to have for myself and for my friends and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's part of the plan. Vinyl for sure. Probably not CDs though.
I got you. Who did the artwork? Let's talk about that part of it.
Yeah. So it's that's also kind of a collaboration between me and my buddy Matt Jones. He's a friend from Sacramento. He's a really talented dude, graphic designer, does web design, but also like has gotten really good at like video, and he also does music as well. He's just like kind of just an all-around creative, and we've done some collaboration stuff together. I've sang on some of his songs, and
very cool.
He's helped me with a lot of like video. So anyways, he's one that's helped me a lot with the artwork. So usually I'll have like an idea of like something that I've drawn up or taken a photo of, and I'll send it to him and be like, I really like this picture, but can you mess around with it and see if we can get something cool? Here's kind of like the theme of like the song. And so, yeah, it's kind of just like me and him, a lot of the artwork.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned videos. I know you put a video out for the latest single. Are you planning on doing more videos, and what kind of inspires that as well?
Yeah. I have a couple more videos for a couple of the songs that are going to be on the record. So yeah, I think, let's see. So with the whole record, I think we made 4 videos, like little music videos. Some of them are more like lyric video style. And then a couple of them have more of like a music video, a little more of like a theme, and required more work on my end.
Sure.
I'll say. And yeah, it's just kind of different from song to song. Like sometimes it'd be like my buddy Matt's idea, like, oh, I was listening to the song and I had this idea for a cool lyric video. Let's get some shots of you. I think one of them, like the video for this latest single that I'm putting out, Sometimes I Love You. We were just swimming at my buddy's house one day, and he was just taking underwater like footage of me swimming, and we were just kind of goofing around. And then, when he put it in slow-mo and we were watching it, and it looked really cool, and he was like, oh, maybe I could use this for a lyric video. So some of it was just like little things like that.
Yeah.
Some of the songs, I would be working on a song, in my room, and just have a random idea for like a music video, and then was like, is this going to be financially possible for us to pull this off?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, do we have the budget to make this happen? I think sometimes from my mind goes like super creative, and I think of this whole video, and then I bring it to my buddy, and he's just like, yeah, this would probably cost like, $50,000 to make this. Like, okay, we'll scale it back.
Well, Spotify is paying really well. Just kidding.
Yeah, we'll scale it back. We'll do something more simple.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, there's I think like 4 videos that we've finished for the record.
Very cool. So I know you said you weren't really planning on touring much. Any shows lined up, or anything kind of in the wings?
Nothing right now. Me and the guys will probably do some shows locally, like in Sacramento. maybe in the Bay Area. And no, I mean, we'd love to get on a tour. I'd love to personally, it's a little hard, I think, trying to headline a tour. I don't know. I think for me, ideally, it'd be awesome to be, put on like a support slot.
Absolutely.
For a bigger band that's kind of in a similar, music scene. And so that would be sweet. And that's something that I try to reach out to different artists and, man, companies or booking agents and try to see if there's anything to hop on. But no plans as of right now. But definitely is something that I would love to do at some point.
Cool. Now that this record's about to come out, I know we've kind of just touched on it, but I want to know how you feel about it. Like when you first heard it, like completely as a whole, what were your feelings towards it? And how you've heard it for years, you said, so you're used to it, but just overall, how do you feel about the record?
I appreciate how dynamic it is in the sense of like I said, just touching on different genre styles. And I think for me, it does feel like it kind of, every song does feel pretty like unique.
Cohesive. Yeah.
It feels cohesive, but it also kind of just feels like every song in my brain kind of stands alone.
Yeah.
And if that's because, I've just spent so much time on each individual song, but I hope it kind of translates that way for whoever's listening to it. I really like records that they work as a whole, but the songs also like work by themselves really
Absolutely.
well. I'm trying to think of artists that I like that do that well. Like that in Rainbow's record is kind of something that
I agree with that. Yeah.
Does that for me is the record's amazing, but it's also like this song, like the songs you can kind of tell them apart really well. Not all albums, so like some albums are like very cohesive and like a sound and a story, and I appreciate that as well. But I don't know, I really like stuff that like you can listen to front to back and it just all feels like you go on a journey and it's just different sounds. And
totally.
So that's kind of how this record is. I don't know if that was not necessarily my goal with it. I think it just happened that way because it was written over the course of 2 years. But so that when listening to it now and when I first finished it, when I was listening to it, that was something that I appreciated about it, was kind of the journey that I feel like it kind of takes you on. Like,
absolutely,
not lyrically, but musically.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's some of my best stuff that I've written for my voice and just vocally and kind of like just experimenting with different vocal styles. Like there's some stuff that I sing that's like more falsetto and kind of soulful, and there's some stuff that feels a little more like whiny and grungy, and so it's just I think I feel like I stretched more of my musical ability, and it felt like kind of an experiment of like who do I want to be as an artist, and I'm like, I want to be all these things. Like I don't really want to have a specific sound. Like I just kind of wrote whatever was coming out of me at the time, and if I felt inspired by it and liked it, then I just used it.
That's so cool. I love that, man. I mean, it's a phenomenal record, and I just think you hit it on the nail on the head. I literally can hear all the different influences, and I love how each song's cohesive, but they do stand out on their own. I totally agree with that. So.
Thanks, man.
Sweet, man. Well, what's the future like for you, my friend? I know we've kind of touched on that a little bit, but are you writing new songs? Like, what's the future like?
Yeah, I mean, because I finished the record, a year and a half ago, and I've kind of been sitting on it. I have obviously been writing in that time, and so I have a handful of songs that are like getting pretty close to being wrapped up. So, yeah, I guess my goal is just to release this record next week, and kind of celebrate it and be proud of it being my first full length, and then from there, just kind of trying to be like more. Just continuously releasing stuff and not waiting as long. I feel like I've kind of did that in the past, and I really want to just be putting stuff out pretty regularly, whether that's doing like the single route. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe I'll just release a bunch of singles and then compile them and make them into a record. But yeah. So the goal is just to put out this record and to keep releasing stuff, just to be putting it out for the people that like my music. And I'd love to tour, love to support an awesome artist. But yeah, just gonna try to keep writing, keep putting stuff out, reaching out to people to collaborate with artists that I like, and
it's cool.
Also, yeah, producing as well for other people and trying to get better at that.
Do you have a website for your producing that you want to maybe have on here?
I actually don't. That's something that I need to do. Most people will just hit me up, on my
on socials. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Brolly Music is my my handle for most things. So like Instagram, Brolly Music, and that's where most people, will like just DM me on there for like producing projects and stuff. But I also have a website. My Brolly Music stuff's all on there. So
okay.
Yeah, that's another way to.
Dope, dude. Man, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome conversation, and I know we've talked for a while over text, but it's cool to get to talk to you in real life. So
yeah, no, for sure. I really appreciate you having me. Yeah, I'm glad we can make it happen, especially so close to like the record release. And
yeah, man, absolutely. And if you ever tour down this way, let me know.
Yeah. You said you're in Florida?
Jacksonville, yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much, and I'm really stoked for you, and your record's incredible, and I hope everyone hears it. So
thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye. Hey, thank you to the listener for tuning into this latest episode. Thank you to Jake Ithurburn as well for your time. Awesome conversation. Really stoked on your new record, and hope things go well for you, bud. So again, thank you for tuning in. Got some amazing artists coming up, and really appreciate all the support. Add me on Instagram and Facebook if you'd like, at the Rumors Are True Cast. And man, nostalgia is a heck of a drug, guys.